This is an SM Media production. Hi everyone, and welcome to the latest episode of the Horse Racing Show right here on SM Media. I'm Scott McPike, delighted to be your host as always. Joined as always by from the Scottish Daily Mail, Calum McClurkin. Calum, how are we?
Hiya, all good here. How are you?
I'm very good, thank you. Busy few weeks, so we haven't been able to do a show, but it's been an interesting few weeks. There's been a lot of good performances. We'll kick off with the kind of performances that have caught your eye over the past few weeks. Is there any you want to mention?
Yeah, probably three for me. Kinross and the John of Gaunt was quite good. He backed into favouritism, 10-1 into 5-1 last Saturday on deep ground. For Reef Beckett, who's a trainer in absolutely flying form at the moment. Frankie Dettori booked up was quite significant. The market cottoned on and he won quite well. And a wee drop back to 7 furlongs in soft grounds it's made the world of difference, it seems. He goes quite well fresh. He ran a bit below par in last year's Guineas, but he's trained on as a 4-year-old and he's a better 4-year-old. I think these kind of specialist 7 furlong races will be right up his street with a cup in the ground. So he could go to France later on in the year and maybe plunder something there. Another two I quite like. One was yesterday, in fact, Point Lonsdale at the Curragh of Ian O'Brien's. 7 furlong horse, talented again. He looks Chesham bound for Royal Ascot. He won quite well, quite convincingly. It looked a decent maiden. And he reserves some decent types for the Chesham in recent years. I mean, the likes of September won it. Lope Fernandez was second to Pinatubo as well. So he looks like a juvenile to follow. And one that's going to go in the same race that represents Godolphin is New Science, who won at Yarmouth last Friday. Again, a similar kind of fashion, made most of the running and looked better as the race developed. They had Pinatubo in that race that clashed with Lope Fernandez, so we might have a similar Chesham clash there at Royal Ascot on Saturday. So it looks quite exciting.
Yeah, it's been a good few weeks. Yeah, we've got along with them. All three were really impressive. Kinross is one that stuck out to me. I thought excellent performance. We have a busy weekend ahead of us, and it's one of my favourite weekends of the flat racing year. It is the Epsom Festival preview. We are going to look at all the big races at the Epsom week and try and pick you a winner. So we'll start off with my favourite race of the week. There's the Coronation Cup, which is tomorrow. So we have a really good field actually. Al-Azli at 5-6, Japan 10-3, Mogul 6-1, and 10-1 Bar. Like a pile driver, Highland Chief are in there. So it is a good race. First of all, before we get into the horses that are turning up, Love was entered up until yesterday, but she's not going. What do we think of that? Where do we think she could aim for this year?
Two possible targets for her: the Prince of Wales at Royal Ascot or the Pretty Polly at the Curragh. I think Ian O'Brien also has armoury for the Prince of Wales as well. So she might stay at home for the Curragh. It just hinges to me that it's more a kind of autumn campaign for her. The ground's starting to dry out, so she'd see her quite soon, I'd imagine. Firm ground suits her. I think the Arc is the ultimate goal for her.
Yeah.
Whether or not she gets the ground in Paris up there is open to debate, and if they don't, then the Breeders' Cup is an obvious backup option. So I think that's what's really going to gear up our season, really.
Yeah, definitely. Al-Azli looked like a beast in the Al Ryan Stakes at Newbury a couple of weeks ago, and I just think this horse is really, really good. It's going to be a good race, but Al-Azli, what do we think of his chances?
Yeah, looked like, because visually he didn't really come off the bridle and smash the likes of Logician. Logician, who's a bit underwhelming for me that day. He beat Thunderous by 4 lengths as well. He was off the bridle a long way from home. He's odds-on favourite here. I don't really understand why. I think it's all about potential rather than proven form. I mean, Mogul in Japan, they do have their kind of quirks, they're full brothers together, but they are Grade 1 winners, and they shape quite well in their respective derbies as well. Japan was third after a big setback 2 years ago. Last year, I think Mogul just took too long to get organised, really, and was fifth. Mogul might be a bit big for Epsom. He might not handle the track. I think that's why Ryan Moore's opted for Japan. And I think I would side with Japan as well, because he ran quite well, Normand, over a trip that was maybe a bit too far on ground. It was maybe a bit too soft for him as well. This could be his race. He's just primed. He looks primed for it as well. I think he's at 10-3. He's a bit of value against odds-on favourite, I think.
Yeah, I think he's a good bet as well. I think Al Asley's really good, but I think that it is all in potential. Japan obviously was quite disappointing last year, and this year he's bounced back really well. I thought it was although Moore gets a lot of criticism, I thought his ride in Japan at Chester was terrific. So
well timed. The form hasn't worked out too well, but
yeah,
they both won Grand de Paris at Longchamp, but Group 1 level, that's significantly more than what Al Asley's achieved in terms of raw form anyway. But Al Asley, he does have a lot of potential. He does look the part. And tomorrow I think we'll find out if he is the part, because Mogul and Japan are certainly no mugs.
Yeah, I think Pile Driver deserves a wee mention as well. Obviously second behind Sir Ron Priestley at Newmarket a couple of weeks ago. He looked as if he was keeping on. I think he could potentially be going over further, kind of going forward. But this is a race where it could cut up, and Pile Driver's there. If he's got that stamina, I think he could be very, very keen to hit the frame.
He does, and he's probably overpriced in his form. He's won at Royal Ascot as well. I thought they'd wait for Royal Ascot. I thought they'd go for the Hardwick, something like that.
Yeah.
Prince of Wales as well, because when he was at the Derby at Epsom, he was all at sea. He looked like he hated the track, and that's my worry about him.
Yeah. So what are we thinking for the Coronation Cup? What is your pick of that race?
I'm torn between Japan and Mogul, but I think Japan. I think although Mogul might have a bit more potential and might like the faster ground a bit better, I think Japan might be a bit too streetwise for him. So I think Japan will sneak it.
Yeah, I'm going to go for Pile Driver each way. We'll move on to the other big race on Friday, which is the Epsom Oaks for the fillies. We'll go through the market and we'll ask you a kind of big question that I'm keen to get your thoughts on. Santa Barbara 5-2, Snowfall 9-2, Zayada 5-1, Tiona 11-2, 10-1 bar. Santa Barbara, is she the right favourite?
She's the right favourite. Whether she wins and whether she's value is a different matter for me. I don't think she's done enough, really, personally. People were waxing lyrical about on the Guineas, which she was supposed to win that by a street. She didn't. She was fourth. She lost 2 places in the line as well. I don't think she hit the line hard at all, unlike a lot of other people. And she's also by Camelot, and Camelot's progeny is not for 15 in British Classics, and placed twice. It's not a great Oaks either.
No.
She might be the one open to progress, and if there's a potential superstar in this that could, take it out by a street, it's probably her or Tiona. I'm not convinced she wants 1.5 miles either. I think there's plenty of question marks and plenty of reason to take her on at that price.
I'm taking her on, and I think she has got a lot of potential, but I'm going to take her on with Snowfall. Now, the form behind Snowfall hasn't worked out brilliant, but I think she was far better. Her performance is far better than probably anything else we've seen in here, to be honest. And I think Frankie Dettori on board, loves a classic. I think she's probably my pick for this race.
She has a chance, and she improved out of all recognition the Musadora to win it.
Yeah.
Was she flattered though by pinching it from the front from a soft lead?
That's the thing. Do you think she will do the same here?
Yeah, and again, pedigree suggests 1.25 miles instead of 1.5 miles.
Aye.
She might all speeded them all out of it. Noon Star would have liked a stronger gallop, for instance. So would have Tiona in that race, who did plenty wrong and got upsides before fading for third.
Yeah.
A juvenile form, and she's experienced and robust. If they all kind of run generally to the mark, Snowfall certainly has the nous to go and win this. Her experience might tell the day. I think that's her main asset, and then that's a good thing about Aidan O'Brien's main two is he's got both bases covered in terms of angles of this race. You get the potential of Santa Barbara, unexposed, lightly raced against the experience of Snowfall, who's battle hardened and is like really tactically aware and very clever. So yeah, it's a bit like nailing your colours to one mast in that sense. But they are both a little bit too short, and there are a couple of interesting ones outside of that as well.
Ziyada's an interesting one. Was obviously second in the Cheshire Oaks behind Dubai Fountain, who was really, I thought was really good as well. But I think she's actually better than what she's shown that day.
Yeah, she looked open to a lot of improvement that day. Jim Crowley was quite easy on the last furlong, and a lot of that points to suggest that she can certainly turn the form around with Dubai Fountain. Or a little bit further as well. Most of her best form has been by a cut of the ground, though, so I'm a bit worried about the fast ground, but she has been well supported. I think she's into 5-1 places, and quite a lot of good judges are tipping her up. Even in that Oaks form alone, she's entitled to be bang there. The gut feeling is she'll improve for that as well. So yeah, she's certainly in the frame.
So what we thinking? Who are we going for here? What's your predictions? I'm going for Snowfall. I think Snowfall was probably the most likely winner. I like Santa Barbara. I think she'll progress really well, but Snowfall for me.
I think there's a shock in this. I think O'Brien's third string, Divinely,
Okay.
They put up 2 weeks ago 66-1. She's been backed into 12-10-1 from nowhere. It's a fortnight ago as well. That was. She's a full sister to Found. It was an absolute superstar and won the Arc. 1 mile 4, a strongly run 1 mile 4. She should get, given Dubai Fountain should lead. Sherbet Lemon will probably be up there as well. Be race fit rivals. There should be enough pace in the race. At Lingfield, it was a fairly weak trial, but she needed the run. She was racing the wrong side of the track. The ground was too soft as well. She must be doing something at home to warrant this support. Shamie Heffernan's on board, and just like the O'Brien outside angle, these fillies, because I mean, there's been 3 big races of instances where they've absolutely improved tenfold from nowhere. The first instance was Mother Earth in the Guineas, and she won that quite easily.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, a 2-year-old form really didn't quite stack up. Empress Josephine won the Irish edition. He was not first string either, and the 6th Friendly was rated 81 and was only beaten by about 4 lengths. So I mean, they're all open to improvement. Snowfall as well, and the Musadora must have improved 18-20 pounds as well from a 2-year-old run. So if Divinely does something like that in turn with her breeding, she might be the one that springs a surprise here, because I think out of the O'Brien lot, I think she's a cast iron stayer in the group.
What about Ocean Road? I was quite taken aback by how well she performed in that race. Obviously, Divinely was 4th in that race, and I think Ocean Road was 3rd.
Yeah, and she absolutely blew the start.
Yeah,
and didn't like the ground and was racing even further away from the pace and on the wrong side of the track as well. Yeah, and Hugo Palmer said she's improved 10 pounds. She needs to improve by another 15, but eminently plausible if you think it's just not a great race. And
I think cuts up. That's she could be.
He trained architecture, who was second in the Oaks, so he does know what it takes to kind of get there. And he was second to Minding that
and Ocean's on board.
Yeah, no, Ocean Murphy's on board. So it's a lot of positives to take. You're getting 5 places, and some of them are like 33-1. It'd be dangerous to do like anything. On form, Saffron Beach probably has the best of it in the Guineas. She's a doubtful stayer. But you know, she shaped much better than Santa Barbara in the Guineas for me.
Yeah, I think so as well. That
race working out. Mother Earth was beaten by a 66-1 shot in the French equivalent, and Fev Rover gets smashed in Ireland. Again, that form is open to question as well. So I think there's a lot of different kind of form lines you can look at, and it makes the race a bit weak, a bit messy, and I think it's worth trying to search for value.
Yeah, I think that as well. I like Snowfall, but I think Ocean Road could be might be alternatives. But yeah, it's going to be another exciting Oaks. Day 1, obviously we've got a few good races. Is there any other horses that catch your eye in the opening, the Friday, the Epsom Festival?
In the opening day, there's a few. Mystery Smiles in the 5:10 is one. Bombed out a bit in the Guineas, missed the break. Sylvester D'Souza and Andrew Balding's team, they've been kind of ticking over quite well recently, in the likes of Nottingham and Leicester. And D'Souza from the front of Epsom is usually very good. Mystery Smiles, her drop back and trip will really suit. I think he's a chance. He's about 4-5-1. I think the Woodcut's a good race. Oscula for George Bowie is 1 at 8 to 1. He looks interesting. Didn't have to improve at Brighton last time out 11 days ago to win. There's a lot more in the tank. He's straightforward, prominent horse. He looks to have a good each way chance in the opener.
I am going for one in the 345 in the Kazoo handicap. Blue Cup leads the market 10 to 3, but I'm going for a horse from Eve Houghton at 7 to 1, William Buick, HMS President. Was disappointing in the handicap at Newbury in April, but bounced back really well to win a good handicap at Windsor. Beat Bad Company, who's been on. I think he's went on to win since. So I think William Buick, these type of races, I think William Buick's very, very good. I think this horse is well handicapped off a mark of 89. That's probably my best bet for day one of the 2-day Epsom Festival.
Yeah, that sounds good enough to me.
We'll move on to the Saturday and we'll touch on the big race, the Epsom Derby. Probably the biggest flat race of the year, in my opinion. We have a short price favourite, Bolshoi Ballet at 11 to 10, Max Swinney 13 to 2, Moya Fee 13 to 2, John Leaper 7 to 1, Hurricane Lane, who won the 2,000 guineas, is 9 to 1, and we have 14 to 1 bar. Bolshoi Ballet, too short. Do we go with him or do we try and lay him?
Look elsewhere, personally. It's just not my price, really. But you can't argue his claims. He looked very straightforward at Dernestown. He looked very good. He put the race to bed with a quick turn of foot. It was visually impressive. Thing is, you want something completely rock solid, and Ballydoyle are relying on him. So why shouldn't we? Aidan O'Brien though this is the first time he's only had one run on the Derby in
I know, it's weird.
17 years.
It's weird, isn't it?
17 years ago it was, and that year it was a 60 to 1 shot that ran nothing. And but the year before that, when he did it, was Galileo in 2001. So, what is Bolshoi Ballet? Is he a superstar, or is he the best of maybe an ordinary colt bunch that he's got this year? Who knows? At the prices, I'd be inclined to look elsewhere.
Do you think he'll win?
I do think he'll win. He's the most likely winner. I think if he stays, he'll certainly win. And the way he hit the line, the Dernestown suggests that he will. Yeah, again, the price is not. I mean, fortunately, I've got a bit of 12s so at the start of the season. So I mean, I don't really need to go in and play again. So that decision's kind of taken out of my hands a little bit. No, I think there's a bit in the short side. Because the Ballysax form and the Dernestown form and the collateral is. I mean, Loch Derg get absolutely hammered last night. He was second in the Dernestown. When he was third, the respiratory issues, he'd throw that out, and then won the 2,000 guineas in Ireland. So I mean, there's a bit of form to that. But like the Taipan, the Ballysax, who get beat. Flying Visit second in the Ballysax, only by 2.5 lengths to Bolshoi Ballet, and get absolutely hammered in the Dante. Nowhere. So collateral form it's not stacking up the way you'd quite like to be a rock solid favourite is. So it's enough reason there to maybe oppose.
Hurricane Lane obviously won the Dante. What's your thoughts on him?
I like him. He's the one for me.
Is he?
Yeah, I like how Godolphin are shaping up here with the 3 options, because Adia, who's now going to be ridden by Adam Kirby, who's jocked off Ocean Murphy this morning. He seems to be an absolute stare to me. He looks at St Ledger horse at best, maybe a future cup horse, and probably not good enough. But Hurricane Lane looks an ideal 1.5 mile horse, and then you've got One Ruler who looks a bit pacey and could be anything, and a bit in the Massar mould of he might get the trip and he might surprise people. Hurricane Lane won the Dante quite well. High Definition was generally expected to turn the form around, but he's staying at home for Irish Derby, so we don't need to worry about him. He was the best in the race. He was under pressure for a long way, but he found a lot. He found a lot quite nicely, and I think he's an honest, uncomplicated type that's destined to improve for another 2 furlongs, and that Dante form is bang there with the Dernestown form in terms of collateral in behind. I think, and it's quite decent enough. I don't think most of the trials are working out that quite well, but that adds to the intrigue. I think it's quite open, and I think Charlie Appleby's team are going quite well this week as well. That's a bonus. So yeah, I think 8-9 to 1. I think he's a bit big each way. I'm
struggling with this race. I do think Bolshoi Ballet will win. I think he's the best horse in the race. McSwinney, yeah, I like him. John Leaper, screams out to me, but I don't know about the form. If is the form good enough to win a Derby?
On ratings, you'd have about a stone to find with
I know.
Bally and McSweeney, so you'd indicate no. It was a messy race at Newmarket as well, but he did a lot wrong, and everything went wrong against him. He still won, and
Yeah.
he was good for that. But he does need to learn to maybe settle a bit, and he does need to find a bit more. But it'd be a great story for Ed Dunlop. You know, it's named after his late father, so he's certainly has a pedigree to do it. So I wouldn't rule him out, but he's a bit too short for me.
I'm kind of getting talked into Hurricane Lane just as an alternative, but I do think Bolshoi Bally should win. I think he's good enough. He blew me away last time. Like, very few horses can do that. I'm first to admit I prefer jumps to flat, but when a flat horse impresses me, I really keep an eye on it. And Bolshoi Bally did that. So yeah, I think I'd quite like to see. I think I'd quite like to see this horse go on and be the star. So you're going for Hurricane Lane?
Hurricane Lane and One Ruler. I wouldn't rule out One Ruler. I think he's the best value in the race. If he's still 25, 33 to 1, I think it's ridiculous. This horse was anti-post favourite at one point for the Guineas before William Buick picked Master of the Seas instead because he was race fit, and he still plodded on to be sixth in the Guineas. Clearly needed the run, clearly going to improve for it. His 2-year-old form stacks up really well. He won the Autumn Stakes. He beat Van Gogh by 2 lengths and McGallan by 4 lengths. That's good form. They both have good chances in the French Derby on Sunday. Heavy ground. He was second to McSweeney when he was favourite, and he wasn't disgraced then. Beat McGallan even further. Now, if you look, McGallan was second in the Dante, only beaten 3/4 of a length. He did enough, in my opinion, to suggest that One Ruler had trained on in the Guineas to the age of 3. And if he has, to my eye that he should be in the shake-up of 7-8 to 9 to 1 mould rather than this year. I think he's an unbelievable each way price.
What about Moyerfief, the horse that beat Sacred Protector? Do we think he's good enough to go and win a Derby? He was very impressive that day.
Keeper as well. He's won a list of Newmarket race, hasn't he? He did that very impressively. The thing is, we don't know anything about the form because nothing's come out of that since. And a bit like Calum that William Haggis has as well. Visually, it all looks good. You're just questioning the form a little bit. On balance, I think a bit like John Leaper is a bit short, but he's going to get his quick ground, which is ideal for him. He looks well balanced. You can certainly see him having a say. Third realm as well, won the Lingfield Derby trial. Okay, it looks weak, but he won it as convincingly as you'd expect. He'd have an each way chance. Khalifa Sat was second for Andrew Balding last year at a ridiculous price, and Youth Spirit won the Chester Vaz, and he seems to be overlooked as well at 25, 33 to 1, even though he might like a bit more cut in the ground. So yeah, you can make plenty of each way claims for other alternatives if even money Bolshoi Bally is not your kind of thing.
I think Bolshoi Bally will win, but I'm probably kind of joining you and going with Hurricane Lane each way. But yeah, it's going to be another. We love this race. Where does this race kind of rank as one of the best races of the year for you?
I think it does. All the prestige, the history, the pedigree. It shapes the breeding of horse racing. In a way, I would quite like to see Bolshoi Bally hack up because then he's going to be our next top sire, maybe. The next 3-4 years ago, like even Galileo's still wheeling them out, isn't he? So in Australia, it's been a good sire. So yeah, it's an important race. It's losing its luster a little bit, sadly, but to me, it's a very important one.
Yeah. As well as that, on Saturday we have a few big races: Princess Elizabeth Stakes, we have the Diomed Stakes, and we have the Epsom Dash. Is there any horses in day 2 that catch your eye?
In the 310, Prince Easy or Maximal should win it. I think if there's a cut in the ground, I think the 3-year-old gets a decent weight allowance here as well. Or Maximal, his form is decent from Chester enough to be in the picture there. But Prince Easy was quite good in his reappearance at Ascot, and I think that's probably the best of the older form. So I'd look at those two in that race. I'd wait for the draw in the Epsom Dash, see what the pace is.
I love the Epsom Dash. It's just a free for all, isn't it?
Yeah, someone mentioned it was a bit like the Sprinters Grand National in a way, which it kind of is, particularly the big field that you normally get, and a lot of Admiral veterans kind of come every year for it. So course form and the draw seems to be important there. And then the last, I quite like Tinto and Open Wide each way. They're both about 14 to 1. It's not been priced up by most bookies yet. From Amanda Perrott, who does operate quite well around Epsom, usually 20-25% strike rate all the time. Jim Crowley's on Tinto and William Buick's on open wides. Tinto won a handicap, a really red hot one at Newmarket in the summer of rattling quick grounds when he was 40-1. When he was rated 100, he's now 96. So he's probably back. He's back to a winning mark, and open wide is similar. So both of them 14-1 each way are two good long shots. I think in the last.
Yeah, there's some good races as well. The Princess Elizabeth posted leads the market 72. I think he's a good horse. I think he was fifth in the Dahlia, wasn't he?
Yeah, last year, yeah.
Yeah, good chance. I think he's trained by the right man. I think Richard Tannen's probably my favourite flat trainer. Nothing else really stands out to me, as you say. There's maybe a couple in the dash I quite like, but I'm going to wait until the draw comes out. Can we try and maybe pick a lucky 15 for both days, for the 2 days? What's maybe 2 from each day?
Yeah, okay. Have a go at it. Japan in the Coronation Cup.
Japan in the Coronation Cup. I am going to go for, in the Kazoo Handicap, HMS President in the Friday at 3:45.
Hurricane Lane in the Derby.
And I'll throw in Postal in the Princess Elizabeth just to make it a 4. So that's my lucky 15 for the Epsom Festival. We'll move on to some questions. First of all, what is your thoughts on Medina Spirit in the Kentucky Derby fiasco? Interesting, isn't it? It's a bit of a farce, isn't it?
Yeah, not good. It undermines the credibility of American racing. Top trainer, a Hall of Fame trainer, getting caught out like this, and his trivial excuse making as well.
This isn't his first incident, isn't it? In the past few months.
29th,
yeah.
Proven case against him.
It's not good, is it, for Mr. Blafford?
No, but he's banned now. He's getting a 2-year ban from the Kentucky Racing Authority. That came out yesterday, so they're doing something about it. But it does cast a cloud over American racing. The regulation of American racing seems to be pretty poor these days by the sounds of it. It seems to be struggling, and it's quite sad to see, because in the first lockdown, it was one of the things that kept me going was Gulfstream. When Gulfstream was on, I really liked that track. It was reliable enough, and it kept my nose interested. Didn't make much money out of it, mind you, but there are good assets to American racing, and it is mired in the world of controversy and doping, and there's a lot of fatalities as well. It does need cleaned up a bit. And maybe this will start it. They're realising that Bob Baffert has his history